Two top female assassins live in seclusion in the mountains in order not to be discovered. They even built an invisible villa the moment the door of the house closes. The villa disappears without a trace in an instant. There is an abundance of food and red wine in the villa, and one can clearly see the outside from inside while those outside can't detect the existence of the villa at all. However, there are uninvited guests who come to cause trouble. Serafina and Valentina have had enough of the dangerous life, and the money they have saved is enough to live comfortably for the rest of their lives. So they propose to the boss that they want to retire. The big boss knows very well the two women's working abilities are invincible naturally. He is reluctant to let go of such capable money-making tools. So the two of them, along with their beloved rabbit, hide in the secretly built invisible villa, trying to get rid of the boss' control. The two women first have a wild dance and celebration. Then they hold the rabbit and fall asleep soundly. At this moment the rabbit feels bored. It quietly crawls out of the hole. Completely unaware of the approaching danger, Serafina, who is in a deep sleep, is suddenly awakened by gunshots. Instinctively, she picks up the gun. On the bed, Zhou says no one can find this invisible villa. But the guns outside seem to have eyes. They keep shooting at Valentina. Obviously, the other side has thermal imaging and came prepared. Fortunately, the bulletproof performance of the glass is outstanding. But just as the two of them were feeling relieved, the rabbit that went out suddenly scurried back. Obviously, the people outside also discovered this hole. They fired frantically towards this hole. When Serafina came to her senses, the other side turned around and fled in a hurry. Fortunately, both of them were safe and sound. But their rabbit became a scapegoat. Valentina held her beloved rabbit and trembled with anger. She swore to make the other side pay the due price. It's very obvious this attack is the boss' warning. Serafina went to the boss angrily to argue. As soon as Serafina entered the kitchen, the boss ordered his subordinates to catch a cook. He threatened Serafina with the cook's life and ordered Serafina to take on the task. Helplessly, Serafina had to compromise. The two of them found the street contact person according to the boss' instructions. This time their task was to go to a monastery in Paris and steal a priceless famous painting. Serafina, on the grounds that Valentina's driving skills were too poor, requested to add a professional driver. The street contact person recommended the professional racing driver Zephyrin. He directly offered the condition of splitting 2 million evenly to recruit Zephyrin. And Zephyrin had just lost her job and happened to have nothing to do. After a little thought, she gladly joined. But Zephyrin can only drive. She knows nothing about other things. This makes the sharpshooter Valentina quite disdainful of her. So the two of them quickly launched an intensive training for her. Running and swimming, shooting and physical fitness. At first Zephyrin was very bad at this, but after days of practice, Zephyrin made rapid progress. Next, the mission officially began. The first step was to steal the architectural design drawings of the monastery. Zephyrin was responsible for sneaking into the office to steal the drawings. Valentina provided cover from a distance. Unexpectedly, in Zephyrina's first mission, she successfully obtained the design drawings, so she began to feel complacent. Just then Valentina noticed that someone was coming. There were 10 people on the opposite side. Zephyrin panicked instantly. They only heard a burst of rattling sounds outside. Zephyrin was about to go out when she was startled. In just a few seconds, all 10 people were hit by tranquilizer guns and fell to the ground. Just as Zephyrin was feeling relieved, an old man suddenly stood up. This time Valentina asked Zephyrin to deal with it herself. But Zephyrin was so scared that she froze on the spot. She couldn't move at all. Seeing that the old man pressed the alarm, Valentina had to take action again. Fortunately, the two of them managed to escape downstairs safely. As soon as Valentina got into the car, Zephyrin instantly stepped on the gas. Zephyrin drove at a speed of 95 km per hour, taking Valentina to flee frantically. In just 5 minutes, they crossed the entire island of Corsica. It made Valentina feel like vomiting all over. After this mission, the two who originally disliked each other recognized each other's strengths. The next task was the most important one, stealing the painting. But before that, they still had one of the most important things to do: take revenge for their beloved rabbit. Valentina climbed to a high place in advance, loaded the gun, and got ready. Zephyrin and another person parked the sports car in an alley. Serafina and another person started dancing in the street. Several men had no idea that their death was approaching. Just when these men were mesmerized, Serafina signaled the number 2 with her hand behind her back. In the blink of an eye, the remaining men finally realized something was wrong. However, it was too late. These men couldn't have imagined that they would lose their lives because they killed a rabbit and paid with their lives. After getting their revenge, one of them revealed a secret that had been hidden in her heart for a long time. She was pregnant. The other two were surprised and happy for Serafina at the same time. After they went back, the street contact person had already designed the final communication process. Serafina and Valentina hid inside the statue in advance. The street contact person dressed up as a food truck vendor to scout the situation and sent out the action signal at the right time. Serene was responsible for driving and providing support outside. It has to be said that this street contact person is really unreliable. He was hungry before starting the work and wanted to get something to eat for himself. However, he accidentally dropped his earphone into the batter. What about Valentina and Serafina's side? They waited for the action signal for a long time but didn't get it. The two of them directly came out of their hiding place. At this time, because the street contact person's earphone fell into the batter, the signal was suddenly interrupted before the earphone was fixed. A group of performers came from the opposite side. They hadn't eaten in the early morning, and they happened to see the street contact person's food truck. So they swarmed over to place orders, and Zephyrine also ran into trouble. The parking space she used was a special space for tow trucks. The staff required her to move the car despite all the problems. Serafina and the other person still planned to carry out the mission as planned. First, they fired several tranquilizer bullets to knock out the security guards in the monitoring room. Then they hacked the monitoring system. Next came the most important part, stealing the painting. Suddenly a beam of strong light shone over. A man burst into the exhibition room. The man asked Serafina what she was doing. Serafina remained calm in the face of danger. She calmly said that she was going to cut up this fake painting. And on Zephyrina's side, she had just moved to a position but was forced to move the car again. The car was constantly on the move. The situation with the street contact person was even more ridiculous. Because the food he made was so delicious, now the food stall was packed with customers. He was so busy making food that he couldn't handle it all. He simply had no time to pay attention to Serafina and the other person. After finally finishing his work, he realized that he was there to assist with the communication. He got in touch with Serafina and said that the two of you can come out of the statue now. However, when he looked again, the three of them had already perfectly completed the mission, thanks to the tacit understanding of the three of them. Otherwise, they would really have been severely let down by this unreliable teammate. Soon it was time for the task of delivering the goods to the boss. It was also the final showdown. Whether the three of them could retire successfully depended on today. Zephyrine rode a motorcycle to provide support below. Valentina found a good position in advance to observe every move of the boss side. After checking the authenticity of the famous painting, the boss immediately sold the painting. At this moment, Serafina once again put forward the idea of retiring for good, and the boss was also well prepared. He expected that Valentina would set up an ambush in advance, so he deliberately changed his position during the conversation and closed all the curtains in the room. However, he overlooked the tacit understanding between Serafina and Valentina. Just when Serafina and the boss held their own opinions and refused to compromise, Serafina suddenly revealed a coordinate. The boss finally panicked, but it was already too late. Soon alarms went off all over the upstairs. The security guards immediately rushed upstairs. A large number of police officers also arrived, and Serafina had already prepared for the situation where she couldn't escape. She had already planned it to sacrifice herself in exchange for the freedom of Valentina and Zephyrine. In the future, no one would be able to force them to do anything. If they still wanted to continue their current way of life, then the two of them would be the best partners. Serafina told Valentina to leave quickly, but Valentina refused to leave no matter what. Soon a large number of armed police officers burst in. As soon as Serafina raised her gun, she was shot dead. Seeing that there was no way to reverse the situation, Valentina had to follow the predetermined route and fled to room 14. There was a passage leading directly to the roof. In the blink of an eye, Serafina was put into a body bag. Zephyrine also rode away on her motorcycle feeling sad. 4 years later, Zephyrine suddenly found Valentina. At this time, Valentina, as Serafina had expected, had her own small courtyard and was living a pastoral life, but unfortunately, she still hadn't gotten out of the regret of Serafina's departure. Zephyrine took her to a mysterious place. Valentina was stunned just by taking a look. There was a little girl sitting in the tent. She looked exactly like Serafina. In her memory, Valentina's eyes filled with tears instantly. At this moment, a hand reached out from behind. It turned out that Serafina was still alive, and all of this was planned in advance by Serafina long before the operation. Serafina had already arranged all of this. Among the bodyguard team downstairs, she had already placed her own people there early. During that operation, she not only wanted to deal with the boss and free the several of them, she also wanted to help Valentina, who was too dependent on her, find herself again. Valentina had been with Serafina since she was 14 years old. Because she was too dependent on Serafina, Valentina had long lost her own personality and her pursuit of life. Serafina deliberately created the illusion of her own death, just to let Valentina in the daze without her slowly figure out how she should live her own life. So far, the movie Banshee ends here. See you in the next video. Bye.